If there is one machine that makes the health and safety police go crazy when I use it, it is my chipper. So what are they going to think of this? Buckle up, officer.
Unfortunately, since we got this thing, the weather has been absolutely terrible, pretty much non-stop rain. It now goes back next week, so we're in a bit of a race to get the last bits done that we need doing. We've done this side of the river, out in the meadows behind me, which means we need to finish off the other side of the river, which means driving this forced chipper, their TR6D model, on tracks back down the lane. It doesn't look that steep on camera sometimes, but trust me, it is frighteningly steep. There probably is in the manual some sort of instructions about what level of angle it's safe to go on, but that's like Googling an illness on the internet. You're always going to be told the worst information, so just don't read the manual. So if you're wondering why I'm driving it down the lane and Jen is filming rather than the other way round, it's because Jen and vehicles and slopes do not mix.
So we got it down the hill, time to grab the other new toy we needed for this project, our Lancing quad.
We only got this because it's a quad and quads are cool, yet it's turned out to be the most used bit of kit we have. Can't believe we didn't get one sooner.
Right across the river and onto the land the other side, which is muddy. But no issue for the chipper, which ploughed straight through.
This was actually filmed before our recent field shelter build, which resulted in the truck getting stuck here. If that makes you think we should probably get some sort of farm track put in, we agree, that's what we thought, so planning permission has now been granted and a track is going in to make this usable year round.
Wading through this every day should soon be a thing of the past. So once the chipper got through the mud, it was up the hill towards the woods.
Okay, Jen got across the mud without any real drama. Quite impressed actually. I now had to get the quad over there, which is an awful lot more fun, and then we can dive into the woods. Okay, got the quad with the rock machinery trailer on, in position, ready to take it down the hill, all the chips. Just need to bring the chipper in and park it right there. We've got a few acres of woodland here that has not been managed in any way, and people think, oh, just leave it to be wild. Can't leave it to be wild. There are no large animals wandering around the UK anymore that would look after it the way they used to, trample down the brambles, eat plants and just taking over. There's nothing here to do that. We've got like 4 squirrels and a pigeon. So our plan is to clear out a lot of the dead stuff, the stuff that is just fallen and in the way, chip it all up because we can use those chips down for the pigs. Pigs like the chips rather than too much mud. That will then leave the area more clear, and then in the summer the goats can come in here, and then the goats can start to graze among the woodland the way herbivores would have done in the past. So this is the little spot we're starting with, and importantly, it's a little spot. We've got acres of woodland here, some of which we can't even get to, it's so overgrown and possibly never will. This is a very small percentage of that, which is important to understand because every time we talk about tidying things up, somebody will tell us that we're destroying natural habitat and upsetting the animals that depend on it. Now, ignoring the fact that's normally said by someone living in an apartment block eating a miserable KFC chicken for dinner, which for reference looks something like that and nothing like that, we know a bit about what we're doing. That doesn't mean we're experts, we're very far from that, but we've done our research. This area here is ancient woodland, which means it's been here since the end of the last ice age, but it didn't look like this back then. Right now it's got a bunch of trees affected by the ash dieback disease, it's had loads of stuff like hazel planted for regular coppicing that hasn't been harvested in years, and by late spring it's impossible to get in here because of how overgrown it becomes. We need to be able to travel through the area to collect firewood and maintain it, and we need to be able to fence it properly so that our goats and pigs can roam within it safely. So although it sounds strange, tidying things up is going to have this looking more like it did thousands of years ago than sitting back and watching it deteriorate. That is why we love this machine. Just cleared that area in literally a few minutes. With our regular chipper, that will be taking us an awful lot longer. But here is where this thing really shines. Logs of that size, just not a problem for it. And a lot of people are going to be thinking, oh, you could chop those up and use them for firewood and stuff. We have here an absolute abundance of good firewood that will last us for many lifetimes over. What we don't need to be doing is picking up rotten, crappy bits of wood and chopping it up for the log burners. People also say that you could use it to create wildlife habitats. We've got acres of wildlife habitats, we've got tons and tons of wood piled up in other places. In areas like this that we want to enjoy, there needs to be a balance between wildlife habitats and space that we can get into.
And as we pushed on, we began to notice what a difference the right equipment made, because this ended up being pretty easy work. One person passing the branches, one person feeding the chipper, then the quad bike to take it down to the pigs. Once there, it gets spread around their pen to soak up some of the mud. Compared to some of the jobs we've had to do here, this has been pretty light work.
We ended up doing about 3 trips down to the pigs, and then the last batch we just chipped onto the floor in an area that's going to be the main path through these woods, just to suppress some of the weeds until the goats can get in here once it's dried out a bit.
Right, welcome to day 2 of chipping up in the woods. Right, a little tutorial on how to use it in case it's of any interest. Because one of the things that happens when we get given cool new gadgets is when they arrive and someone explains how to use them to us, we end up thinking, oh my goodness, it's so complicated. And then within 5 minutes of using it, you realize it's actually very, very simple. So here's how this thing works. You stick your diesel in the tank, and by the way, the tank is see-through. Such a sensible idea. I've got so many things that we use that take diesel or unleaded, and you can't see inside the tank, and it's got no fuel gauge. So see-through tank, brilliant. You turn it on, and when all the lights on the little dashboard are on, you start it up. It really is as simple as that. The only other things you have to control then are the speed at which it sucks stuff in with its rotating teeth inside the hopper, which is done here. But we haven't touched that. We were told leave it on about halfway and it will do everything, and it certainly seems to have. Oh, another cool thing as well, for those who are fans of nipples, all the grease nipples on here are all in a row. So you don't have to go and kind of find different points to grease it with your grease gun. They all end up here. Very, very clever. At the driver's end, you then got 3 sticks. One does the right track, one does the left track, and the other one lets the tracks come in and out. So if you needed to get it through a tight space that was narrower than the tracks as you see them now, you can retract those in and out. We haven't bothered because we've not gone anywhere that tight with it. We were told, we haven't used this either, that this hitching point on top here can take the entire weight of the machine. So if we did actually throw it over the edge of the cliff, we could winch it out again. I don't think we have anything that's strong enough to winch it out, but the theory is sound. You change the direction of where you want to shoot your gunk by just undoing these bolts here, and then it angles to wherever you want it. The same with the end shoot, whether you want it flying up into the sky or down into your trailer. And then at the business end, green is for go, red is for backup. The only time we've had to use the backup is when we've accidentally engaged the safety mechanism, of which there are 2. There's the obvious one up on top, big red safety button. Haven't had to use that one yet. The one that we have triggered a few times though is this. If you push this, it shuts it off. We haven't done it on purpose. What's happened is that when a big tree has gone into the hopper, the branches have caught on this, dragged it in, and it shut it down. So all we have to do is push and hold reverse. It kicks it out a few inches. We then just reset that and send it in again. Clearly, this machine could devour a human quite easily, but how you'd get that to happen without triggering a safety, I don't quite know. Maybe a running dive would suffice, I suppose. Given it is our most expensive piece of machinery that we've got here at the moment, and our most powerful as well, it's actually incredibly straightforward to use.
And this angle shows the main feature of the machine that we like so much, the hydraulic feed. Our regular chipper is a Forest Master gravity fed unit and is absolutely superb. If you had a garden, even a really large one, it is likely to be way more than you'd ever need. But here there are times where it's just not quite enough. It relies on the weight of what you put in it and its spinning teeth to pull stuff through, which can result in having to expend quite a lot of time and effort pushing stuff into the hopper. With the hydraulic feed machine, there are spinning wheels that grip anything you feed it, and it then pulls that to the blades for you. It means that once it's grabbed hold of something, you can pretty much just get out of its way and it will drag everything through. And being on tracks is a huge benefit too. It means you can move the machine in just a few seconds to the wood. That is way more efficient than dragging the wood to the machine. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but working efficiently like that ends up saving hours over the course of a day. And once again, all those chips ending up in the pig pen. Simpson and Bruckheimer roam free around these woods, actually spending a lot of their time in the areas that we can't get to. But they spend their nights in their pen. It's also where they're put if they're becoming a nuisance while we're working. If we had no means of shutting them away, they'd spend all day looking for belly rubs.
Right, so we brought the brush cutter up here, and I've done a little path with it, and it's gonna be okay, I think. The idea now is to just kind of whiz around this area, chop all these brambles down to the floor, leave it, and then good stuff will come back up. What we could do, some people wonder why we aren't, we could put the goats in here now and let the goats do the brambles, but it's still a bit wet for the goats. Goats don't like being on wet ground. It's also raining quite often and the goats won't enjoy that. So it's better that we do it for now, and then let the goats in here in the spring. Pigs don't care though. Okay, we are done up here, looking good. We can now walk around it, we can now brush cut around it if we need to, or more likely we can simply fence this section off with electric and put the goats on here and they'll nibble what comes through. So we've got done up to about here, I guess. So that section down there we can now fence off. Goats can hang in there, and then through here it just goes on and on, acres of it this way. All the woods running down by the stream as well. Where are you off to, dude? You going exploring?
With this section cleared, some proper management of the area can now take place. That's going to include planting new trees, removing dead ones, and keeping the brambles under control. We also hope to eradicate invasive plants like Himalayan balsam. Every summer that currently goes mad here. How effective the pigs and goats are going to be at that remains to be seen.
That is a happy pig.
It's our last day with the chipper and rain is forecast. In fact, it might even be already starting. We're keeping it simple today. We've parked the chipper down by the pigs. We're now going to go around, gather some bits of wood that shouldn't be where it is, and shove them in the machine. Which means we get to play with another new toy, a battery-powered chainsaw from Kramer Toys. Tools. Tools, Kramer Tools.
I don't know if Kramer make toys, but if they do, this isn't one of them. This thing is an absolute beast. It's bigger and more powerful than our petrol chainsaw and the convenience of a battery. When Kramer sent me it to try, I was sceptical, but it's proven to be an incredibly nice bit of kit. It certainly made short work of a few bits of fallen tree that needed cutting up, and anything too small for firewood went straight into the chipper and straight out onto the pig pen. When Force said we could borrow the chipper for a couple of weeks, I assumed it was going to be a fun toy to play with, but massive overkill for what we're doing here. Yet it's turned out to be so useful, it's gone on to the things I might well end up buying list. The amount of time and energy that's been saved by using this over our regular chipper has been absolutely massive.
We are done. It would be amazing to have this machine for an awful lot longer. or indeed just own one. But it goes back tomorrow, so we're going to get it across the field again and give it a little wash down so they don't have it back in the state it's in currently, which is filthy.
And after that wash it looked like this, not quite as clean as when it arrived, but close enough. So a forced TR6D tracked chipper. Our small chipper still has its uses and does what it's designed to brilliantly, but it's hard to use something like this and then go back to anything lesser. If I found enough money down the back of the sofa to get a used one, I absolutely would, and if I ran a business that did any of this sort of work, I'd have a brand spanking new one.
A huge thank you to Forced for the demo, and hit subscribe for a review on the quad bike and chainsaw, both coming soon.